I think what happens is, right now there's a lot of development, in the neighborhood that you're working in. And if we don't do something today, it's going to get lost for the future.
The heat index in in my district is above most of the other districts throughout the city and county of Denver.
Oh, yeah, it just wouldn't be homey. I don't see people staying here, right? They may grab what they want and then take off because it's just so dry and hot.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest issue with these zip codes, 80216 to start off with, which equals Globeville, and Elyria-Swansea is the number 2 polluted zip code in the United States. And start there's a bunch of industrial factories. There's the Perina factory, there's Suncor, there's a bunch of different issues that are affecting the community's health.
We have single-family, low-density zoning throughout this community, and we're has the second highest heat index of any other district. And the reason for that is the lack of trees, the lack of green space, and the reason why we don't have trees and green space in parks is because these neighborhoods were forgotten.
The growth and trajectory of growth is intense, and if the city and the activists in the community don't demand change right now, we're gonna have a built-out neighborhood that doesn't have the infrastructure that you need. So now is the opportunity. If we don't do it now, we've missed out on the opportunity for 50 years.
Number one, environmental justice and environmental racism. There's intersectionality. There's a need for environmental justice. There's a need for housing justice because of the racist housing policies, the redlining that really built Denver.
When you talk about the history of redlining, it was essentially, grand scheme of redlining is a lack of devotion and resources being given to a certain area. There's a lack of investments that went to the Cherry Creeks and the Park Hills and skipped 5 Points in Globeville. And that's what we want to change. We want to combat those effects that have been felt over the last 50 years.
Our economy is driven by the ideal that we are a city in a park. I think empowering organizations that are focused on actually realizing that city in a park vision will support not only the economy in District 9, but also the economy across the city.
Yeah, I think green infrastructure can definitely be seen as a high-level concept, but I think that's what the Green Dot Coalition, meaning the group as a whole, is really looking to change. I think green infrastructure can mean a regular park. It can mean, pollinator gardens. It can mean a pocket park. It can mean native trees and pollinator highways being planted. It can mean a greenhouse being implemented. But I think that's our whole focus is, like I said, when you talk to the city, they're thinking of more of a macro perspective, and we're diving into placemaking projects where we're able to kind of look at the spaces in between that most people kind of overlook, and spaces that the neighborhoods really see as a benefit for their vision.
This project is kind of unique in the way that communities have approached areas that have been traditionally industrial in the past. Design Workshop has worked in similar communities and before. Our work in Midtown Houston is a great example of how we've helped communities to really plan for resiliency. That project was the first Green Streets approved project that ever happened in Texas. And in the wake of one of the most devastating hurricanes of the late 2010s, the area that we actually worked in did not see any significant flooding because of the work that we were able to do with the community. We hope to see similar impacts with 5 Points.
Investing in green spaces allows or encourages more people to come out and enjoy the spaces that have tree canopy, that has access to parks.
There's just something about plants and trees that make it feel welcoming, where people can walk in and it just feels comfortable. And so any type of trees where it lets the space look put together, well-maintained, like trees do so much.
Green Dot Coalition and others are inspiring the city to look at things differently. They are inspiring other communities to take chances.
We've had opportunities to build some good relationships with the city in particular through a lot of the work we've done. We are currently working on an urban forestry strategic plan, which is for the first time creating a plan for how we treat the urban forest in Denver. So really being able to think, at kind of a granular scale about how do we actually grow trees here? How do we make sure that everybody has access to shade and the environmental, the social, the economic benefits that it brings?
Beyond like us planting trees and planting pollinator gardens, which is very important, we're also an advocacy group providing awareness on these issues to the city, to the community, to surrounding communities, and to people who can actually help.
Not everyone trusts leadership within Denver Parks and Rec and other institutionalized departments within the city that are tasked with doing this work. They will trust nonprofits like Green Dot Coalition and others to do it. And so finding ways within our current plans to incentivize by paying, by contracting with folks that look like us, that are doing work in community right now is what's essential.
So we can ask the city to do it all we want, but if it's not the people in those places that are kind of getting their hands dirty and knocking on doors and digging holes for trees, then it's not going to be as meaningful.
What we don't have are incentives for nonprofits and small groups of folks to come together and to actually actualize those outcomes.
I think the biggest gap right now is funding. There's ample land, but we've got so many streets that don't have trees. We've got so many streets that don't have understory landscape infrastructure. So many streets that have failing or lagging storm infrastructure. The gap is the money.
I think if we don't fundraise and we don't get the necessary resource that we need, we're going to continue rolling. This isn't going to stop. I mean, because this need is there. The demand for it is there. It's just going to put a halt in the amount of impact we're able to make. I don't know another coalition that's doing the work that we're doing on the level that we're doing it at. And we've been able to do a lot with a little. So if we're able to pour more resources into what we're already doing, the impact we're going to make is exponential.